be removed from that field. That's pretty straightforward. In order to be authorized in cut and thrust, you need to have 2 marshals supervise you and be happy with the way that you're fighting. Usually that takes some experience, that takes some time at practice, working on the techniques, working on the new tools in the toolbox to make sure that you're doing it safely.
If I'm going to interject slightly.
Go.
It's important to temper your expectations because often a marshal is going to have to see you fight a few times under different conditions and under pressure before they can authorize you.
Is it not a senior marshal and an experienced fighter is acceptable to authorize a fighter?
Fighter, but not a marshal.
But not a marshal.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So in fighter authorization, you do need still need a senior marshal and then an experienced fencer. How do you get cut and thrust practices at your practice? You need to have a senior marshal and cut and thrust at your practice. Otherwise, you cannot be doing cut and thrust at your practice. If you have a knight marshal who is willing to directly supervise you, and they go talk to Ivar, who is our Kingdom Earl Marshal, and get special permission from him directly to run a cut and thrust practice, in that case, that is possible. So in the short term, while we're getting people caught up with their marshalates, that could be a choice. So talk to your local knight marshal and see if that's something that you can work out together. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. In terms of weaponry in cut and thrust, it is pretty similar to rapier. You can use all the things that you use in rapier now in cut and thrust. The only addition to cut and thrust is that you are allowed to have slightly stiffer blades. Bonsifu, thank you. Okay. All right. Bonsifu here has a cut and thrust legal blade. The difference between this and a rapier blade is 1/2 inch of flex, and that is it.
Okay, we don't have a test.
Nope, that's okay, we got it. So we did test this at Montguard practice. It does not pass for rapier, it does pass for cut and thrust. It has to flex 1/2 inch
With the
under a 6-ounce weight, okay? You cannot use a stiffer blade under any circumstances, period. And if you're not sure, you're gonna need to find somebody with those drop weights to make sure that the flex is legal, okay? Otherwise, everything is pretty much the same. We are not using foils. We are not using épées. We are not using those little tiny whippy Olympic fencing blades. When they snap, the cross section is too small. It's just not safe. They're not allowed, okay? The tip rules are the same as rapier combat. You cannot show up with a spatulated tip or a rolled tip with a little bit of tape on it and call it good. You're still needing to hit that 10mm width. You can use, I know in HEMA, some of you have some HEMA crossover experience, thermoplastic is becoming a lot more common, like white morph. That's fine, as long as you can ensure that it meets the tip requirements. You're starting to see a lot more in rapier and also in cut and thrust, like 3D printed tips. Those are fine. Rubber tips are fine, but you must have that cross section. Period.
Make sure you're speaking this way, Alan.
Oh, hello, camera. Great, sure. Yes.
You may have mentioned, is it okay to use leather to make a tip?
You can use leather to make a tip. Absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much for that. Leather's totally fine as well, as long as it's hitting that cross section. Okay.
It stayed the same. Like
Yeah,
the rules
that's
are
all the same, which is great. Allowed weapon types, everything that we have in rapier. You can have a dagger, you can have a two-handed sword, you can have a spear. The rules are the same in terms of blow calling and everything like that. Spears still only hit from the tip. That's still the same. There is a difference in that there is no cut and thrust melee at all in Avacal. That does not currently exist in our rule set. So wars will always be fought rapier, not cut and thrust. Any questions about that? Cool. All right, valid. Now we're going to get into the actual meat of like what is the difference between cut and thrust and rapier. And it really comes down to 3 things, and that's all, which is good because I don't have a big memory, so I find it hard to remember stuff. Thing number 1, my good friend Ranger Robert. Come on over, buddy. All right. If you have done rapier before, if we turn this way, because we've got a camera currently, okay? If we turn this way, okay? Yeah, okay. In rapier, when we are cutting someone, we must draw 4 inches or push 4 inches, or we can do a tip cut. Okay, those are the only legal types of cuts in rapier. We add another type of cut in cut thrust, and it is a percussive cut. What does this look like? Wow, there it is, guys. Percussive. Okay? It doesn't feel like a big addition to the rule set, but the fact that you can just come in and do this opens a lot of saber work. It opens a lot of other techniques. It is surprisingly expansive in the way that it updates your game. Okay, so that's thing number 1, percussive cuts. Little asterisks on that. That does not mean chops. Okay, that does not mean I'm whipping up your still lightest touch at this time in Avacal. Okay, everybody clear on that right now? Cool. Second thing, Ranger Robert and I are fighting. I come in. I can now grab his blade. Yeah! Hell yeah! Sorry, camera. So, blade grasping is now an addition to the rule set. What does this mean? This is a blade grasp. What happens if you move your hand back and forth? I lose my hand. What happens if you twist? I lose my hand. That's it. It has to be grabbed. It has to be stationary. What am I not doing? Ripping it out of his hand, right? Or scratching everything. Sorry. This is still illegal. The conclusion is still illegal, all right?
We can't even grab clothes, can we? I don't think we can.
No, it's only blade grasping, okay? I cannot come in and grab the palm of the knife. I cannot come in and grab the basket. It is only the blade. It is not the tip.
What are our rules on shield grabbing?
Shield grabbing is not legal.
Okay.
Yeah, we are not allowed to grab defensive items. Thank you very much. Okay, what is the time limit on that? It's actually not specified in our rule book. There is no time limit in Avacal on blade grasping. However, I never want to see this so that I'm manipulating his limbs. I never want to see bending that is explicitly illegal. And I never want to see anything that is going to put you or your companion in a dangerous position. Okay? Please expect to be broken up if that happens. If you are manipulating each other in such a way with your movements that you are hurting someone, you have already failed. Don't want to see it, okay? If you get really messy, if you get, you can just say, hey, break.
And just confirm, dagger grab is acceptable
That
because
is
it's a blade.
That is a blade grasp, okay?
But do not disappoint Allert.
I will cry and be sad and write sad poetry. It'll be terrible. That is true.
So,
Okay.
so to be clear, metal bladed weapons are the only thing that can be grasped.
Correct.
Nothing else
Correct.
at this point.
Absolutely. Nothing else. Not body, not clothing, not hair, not shoes, not spear hafts. None of
So the
that.
blade, but not the haft.
Correct. Correct. Because again, the torque force on that sucker, it's so easy. It's so easy to hurt someone badly. And they are going very conservative with this and building up, and I will talk about that in a second, okay?
Okay.
The third thing, okay, we've covered percussive, we've covered blade grasp. The third thing is slightly higher armor requirements. We're gonna put some caveats on this, okay? You require rigid back of head protection. It is not allowed to have a gap here or here and only have a hard plate in the back. This is a Wakusi rattlesnake overlay. Some of you who do HEMA will recognize these. They're everywhere right now. Cobras are a great choice. There are some other rigid back of head protections available. If it opens here, so that like your neck is showing or your ear, you have to stitch it closed or figure out some way to make sure that that protection is continuous, or I will fail it if I see it.
We had passed a stress helmet that has the two blades in the back because it tails out and sits over because it closes the whole way down. We haven't talked more about it since we were
Yeah. So it's one of those things that it's this area, okay? So it's your night-night button. So this top vertebrae up and around and to the sides has to be covered. If it dovetails after that point, your gorget is going to catch it. It's not a big deal. But I will be looking for the full back of your head to that top Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So that's number one thing, rigid back of head. Number two thing, this moment, and this is hilariously slight in the rules, okay? If you have a thick gambeson, you probably already pass. It's 1/8 of an inch of elbow padding. And now if you think about how small 1/8 of an inch is, it's a hoodie, right? It's very, very thin. I would like to encourage you, as a very safety conscious person, to consider something like roller derby pads or roller skating pads in general. The little bit of rigid protection, you'll thank me. Because if a cut comes into the side, ask me how many times I've been chopped in the elbow by a saber. You're going to want a little bit of extra protection, okay? These are really, really cheap. You can order them off Amazon, whatever, but elbow padding is big. The last thing that you need are, if you are fighting single-handed weapon on single-handed weapon, so that includes things like sword and dagger, rapier by itself, whatever, you need padded gloves that are padded in their entirety at 1/4 of an inch thick, which is not really that much. These do pass. I looked at these with Mr. Rowell, and he was quite happy with these. These are available in lots of places. Okay. The specific wording of this is, there we go. Need to find it. Okay. Hands and fingers must be padded, 1/4 of an inch foam or equivalent, and the padding must extend 1 inch above the wrist. So it can't stop here, which disqualifies quite a few motorcycle gloves. So please take a look at this. And you know what? That's kind of it. The only other thing that you need to know is that in cut thrust you can have no bare skin. So we are doing old style. If you've been fencing for a while, old style rapier armor that covers everything. You gotta wear shoes, you gotta wear gloves. Cover yourself. Yes?
You said single-handed weapon, single-handed weapon. What about two-handed weapons?
Oh, thank you. Yes. These suckers. These are Black Knights. These are what I use for longsword. Okay, in HEMA, you must have rigid back of hand protection and back of forearm protection. And it doesn't matter if you are fighting with the longsword or if your companion is fighting with the longsword. You both need these. Is that good? Everybody gets that? Okay.
So if I have a rapier.
Yes, you still have to have them. Because it's about the chop from
But
them.
does a complex guard cover that? Because I don't think
We'll
I
go
could
into
hold a
that.
rapier.
You're actually jumping ahead a couple chapters here.
Yeah, we will get there.
Covered.
Yeah, we will get there because there's some special rules about hand protection. This is the easiest option. Okay? I agree. This clamshell fitting into this. So in that case, there are a few rules about non-glove rigid hand protection. You don't have to remember all of this. Remember, this is on a cheat sheet, but I'm going through it because we've got to be thorough. Okay? A rigid protection may be a gauntlet, a sword guard, or a defensive object such as a shield. I do recommend that you have a demi or something though. The shield defensive object alone is acceptable only if the hand and wrist stay 4 inches from the shield edge. So if you've got the kind of shield where it's flipping this way, right, you still need something rigid. If you have a complex sword hilt, we had a little bit of debate about this at Winter War. It has to be closed such that a tip cannot fit through the complex hilt.
That's where we see the HEMA guys with the chunks of leather stitched into the complex.
Yes, exactly. To make sure that we can't puncture through. So you can alter things to kind of make that work for you. But it has to be 4 inches away from the shield edge or whatever if you're using a shield.
And is that based on our tip? I guess that 10.
Yeah, 10. Yeah, 10 millimeter minimum. Neck protection's the same. Rigid. Has to go all the way around 180 degrees in the front. You're allowed to have like a little tiny gap on the side if your clasp is not quite lining up anymore. But this has to be covered. The back has to be covered. Okay? Let's see. Yeah, so that's the jugular notch and clavicle head. So it has to come up high enough. So I mean, honestly, That's the rules, y'all. That's it. If there's questions, yeah.
Just going back quickly to Aaron's question. So, if he's facing off against a two-hander,
Yes.
and he's got a rapier with a complex helm,
Correct.
or complex hilt,
Yeah.
and that rigid does not fit into that hilt,
Yeah.
what are his alternatives that you would suggest?
Closing off the hilt with something rigid, like sufficient leather, something like that. There's
Yeah,
no.
but
I
like-
can't make the swords differently.
No, I'm talking about like the back of his hand. 'Cause
So a
that's not the
demi,
part
a
that's
demi is a
covered by
choice, right?
hilt.
Up to here, right? You can do leather here and a demi here, but you're gonna have to make a few modifications.
So
unfortunately.
he'd have like what they use, the archer's gauntlet.
Yeah.
From armored.
Yeah.
Covered.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So you may find that some of your rapiers are not really going to work out for you. You can also just say, hey, yeah, something like that, a heavy gauntlet.
Like a fingered gauntlet
Yeah.
will go inside that hilt. It won't be happy, but it'll
Chainmail
work.
gloves are not rigid.
Yep, thank you.
No. So yeah, something like that. It's going to take a little bit of play for us to kind of figure out what's going to work. Yes.
Does this count for rapier?
No, unfortunately not, because this is not rigid, and this part is not rigid. So this is great. Yes, it's not rigid under our rules, unfortunately.
It'll work single sword
Yeah,
on
it's
single
great
sword.
for like rapier on rapier, no
But it won't
problem.
work against
Okay.
two-handed.
Something a lot of people do if they don't want to mess with, like, we have some beautifully made swords around here with the complex hilts. If you take a look at the heavy baskets, what people will do is they'll modify one of those to fit over their quilt, so it temporarily goes over, so
Yeah.
that they can have the pretty sword,
Slide on it, yeah.
slide it on and take the sword.
No, it's all good. We're gonna open up to just a little bit like questions. If you have equipment you want to bring to me, anything like that, we can do that. I do want to make a note here, okay, about over armoring and about calibration, okay? In this moment in Avacal, cut and thrust is still a lightest touch game. What does that mean? You must be able to feel reliably and without fail every lightest touch that is applied to you. If you are over armoring, that is not courteous. Okay? I may not throw you off the field for it, but it suggests to me if you're really over armored, and I'm not talking about like a plastron to make sure that you're safe, things like that for various injuries, but really, really armoring up, it suggests to me that you have no intention of fighting at lightest touch, which means that you're not necessarily going to be fair. If Quan Sifu shows up in that, it's not really the game that we're playing together, okay? And this is a trust game, it's a consent game. The future of cut and thrust in Avacal is a bit of a question mark, okay? We're trying to get this started at the ground level, which means at this moment we have only the most basic rules that exist in the society in play in Avacal. If there's a lot of interest in cut and thrust, if there's a lot of communication and conversation back and forth about cut and thrust, that can change, right? We can change some of the things that we do. We can change our culture. We can say, hey, you know what? We prefer to go a little bit more intense. Maybe we require a little bit more armor. But we have to prove as a community that we can handle the reality of lightest touch cut and thrust first. Because it would be ridiculous to suddenly go, okay, everybody, let's go hammer and tongs here, not knowing that this community is able to kind of calibrate appropriately. So there's gonna have to be a lot of conversation, and I do encourage you every single time you do a cut and thrust practice or fight cut thrust with someone, every few passes stop and say, hey, how is my calibration? Hey, are you feeling comfortable right now? How is my grab? Right? Have that talk. You have to have a thick skin emotionally to do a new discipline, because people are going to tell you, dude, you gacked me. That was not fun. I did not enjoy that. People are going to talk to you in that way, and you have to be willing and open-minded about that feedback. Okay, so yes, now we are going to open up to questions, comments, concerns. We're going to, if you want me to look at your equipment, if you have questions about equipment that you want to buy, if you go, hey, I did cut thrust here one time in, Artemisia, and it was like this. What are the differences? Talk to me. We're going to do that for a few minutes, and then we're going to do some cut and thrust bouting under supervision for the rest of the time that we have, or until people get tired and don't want to know more. Make sense? Okay, cool.